Greetings, welcome to day 58 of Project Dig. Project Dig is a 2D multiplayer automation survival sandbox game that I am developing here entirely on Twitch and uploading the VODs to YouTube along with some recap videos. We're making a custom C++ game engine here, and we've been working on adding in scripting support for our prefabs, and hopefully we'll get to kind of exploring what our user interface scripting support can look like today. So we started day 58 a few days ago, and then my computer kind of just died on me. Fortunately, I was able to resuscitate it, and so we're back. But yeah, so I don't think I actually got much or any work done on the previous day 58 because it died very, very quickly into the stream. So yeah, we'll see what I actually did, if anything, and kind of recap that and then get into the development. So I was thinking today we'll be working on the some unit tests, just a little bit, and then exploring the user interface scripting support. Okay, so I will answer your question, Sumit, in just a few. Bear with me here. Let's see here. So I wanted to go to the ECS. I don't know if I actually started this or not. It kind of looks like I did not. Okay, so I guess we didn't actually do anything. I think I was just talking about it. But yeah, it doesn't look like... Oh wait, oh no, I take that back. We started this. Yeah, so the plan is to write a unit test for our world apply function. Actually, let's do this, world apply. So what this function is doing is it's for hot reloading our prefabs. So imagine we have this world filled with some tree or something like that, like some oak tree, and we're playing around with it. Maybe we're like chopping it down or something, and we're like, you know what, this is too hard to chop down. It's taking like 40 hits to be able to chop it down or whatever. Let's reduce it. So I can open up the prefab file, it'd be something like this, and we'd have like the, maybe it would be life or something like that. It would be 40. We could just say, oh, you know what, let's actually make it be 15, greatly reduce it. If we save it, then it would immediately be able to, while the game is still running, apply that change to the prefab as well as all of the existing entities that are instantiated from that prefab. And it does some pretty cool things here with taking a delta of the components between the previous component and the new component, and then applying that delta to the entities that were created from that prefab. And so I want to write a test for that. So there's 3 different parts that we kind of need to test here. There's updating a prefab, or sorry, our prefab can change in 3 different ways. It can have components removed, it can have components added, and it can have existing components changed. So removed components, we need to obviously then remove that component from all of the entities. So if we have something where it has physics collision and then we're like, you know what, we don't like the physics collision on this thing, let's remove it, we could do that. If we then, maybe, inversely, we wanted to add physics collision to something, we could while the game is still running. And then lastly, like I said, the first scenario, we're changing the component. So we want to write some tests for this, so that way if, as we're going throughout development, if we ever break this, we should be able to see that fairly quickly, even if we're not using the auto or the hot reloading. At that moment, we'd be able to see like, oh, hey, this is broken. And I am hoping that we can also write a test or set it up in such a way that we can test all of the components and make sure that they're all working with this hot reloading. I'm not sure how best to do that though. Yeah, I don't know how we can do that. But this might be the place to do it. Okay, before I continue with that, someone had a quick question, or so he says. Do you use structured bindings to unpack your tuples with your ECS systems? If so, what are the types that they compile to? For some reason, mine compile down to a component pointer ref. Would like to try and get rid of the reference. I am using structured bindings. For the queries, so if we go to our query system, we have that here, and we have our value type that it returns. So we do a forward as tuple or tuple, whatever, and we have this get here. So it sounds like you're returning a pointer as well, like, and then you're having it be a reference. So like that would be if I had this world get returning a pointer, and then I said, oh yeah, this returns a reference or something. I don't know. And the for loop. Yeah, so we can go to for loop. Actually, we have some up over here. It's a query. It's a query. Let me see. Here's an example. So we have this query of the transform component and physics component, and you can see here I have it so it's actually returning references, but I could also say like, hey, this is an auto ref, and I think it then maybe I don't know exactly what it does in that case. Maybe it makes it so everything's a reference at that point. So without that, the entity, oh, it is a reference as well. I guess it's just always doing a reference there. So yeah, this is our structured binding for it, for the query. So yeah, here's my return. I don't know exactly what's going wrong with yours. I guess a good question that you could be asking yourself is, do you actually need to be returning a pointer, period? Could it just be a reference to whatever you have? Yeah. I don't know if I was very helpful there. Hopefully, at least you got to see the code. I don't know if you're a patron. I don't think so, but in case you didn't know, you can get access to the engine source code if you are a patron. So if you wanted to like look at this or even use it, you are. Okay, yeah. I am. Sweet. Oh, whoops. I meant to do Siege. There we go. That's the emote I was going for. So yeah, you can look at this code and see what I'm doing. Yeah, but maybe you don't want the get to the like world get to be returning a pointer, and instead you want it to return a reference. But yeah, if you wanted to share your code with me, you're welcome to, and I can take a look. Okay, so yes, let's do our little world apply. At least get something down. So what I was thinking about doing is adding in oh, that's right. Right before it crashed, I was going to grab ah, dang. Forgot I did that. I killed it. I got rid of all that code. Oh well, I can just make it again. Okay, so we got that now set up with the collision as well. I was thinking about what can we do? That's right, I wanted 3 different prefab types. Maybe we can have it like this, and so this could be prefab 3. Prefab 3. So the idea here is that we'll have like a bunch of entities initialized from prefab, and then a bunch of entities initialized from prefab 2, and then we will say that prefab, we'll take like the delta, or we'll say that prefab 2 is the old prefab, old component, and then we want to be using the components from prefab 3 and make sure that that is being applied properly. So world, I have world, right? Apply. So the previous components would be prefab 2, oh whoops, prefab 2 component, prefab 2 bits, and then prefab 3 is the new prefab. So this is what we want to check and make sure it's changing properly. I don't know if we want to do that there though. Well, one thing we need to do is create a bunch of these entities to make sure that it's properly updating them. And we do have our world here. Do I need to do anything else with that? I think so. I don't think our everything is set up, right? Maybe it is. Maybe it is. I'm having some allergies here. Let me go take something, some medicine. I'll be right back. Mr. Poundsign, welcome back to the siege. Hey, thank you for the support. 4 sub babies. Those babies need some love. $36 months. You are awesome, man. I appreciate the support. That is a lot of months. Dang. Okay, so let's create some entities here. Oh, how do we do that again? Just like this. I don't think we need quite so many. Let's just say, like, you know, maybe 5 of each. That should be plenty. Actually, let's yeah, okay, so prefab, entities, pushback, whoops. And then let's kind of do the same, but we need to say this is 2. So now we can easily iterate over those. And what do we want to do here? Initialize prefabs. We want to, so we need some actual sections for testing this out, right? I'm wondering if we actually want to have the apply be here, or should we put it elsewhere? I don't know, I'm starting to kind of feel like this could just be part of this section up here or something. There's a lot of things I'm testing. I'm not really doing this right, but we'll test it out and see what we think. For entity in our prefab entities. So one thing, we need to make sure that prefab, okay, that did change. So we should make sure that our bounds is the same, right? So I guess what we could just do is say the entity, what do we want? We want to get our transform component, transform, world get transform component for this entity, and then we want to require that the transform component bound is I do have an equal operator, right? So I can just do it like this. And this is fine, whatever. This should be okay. It'd be kind of nice to be able to do prefab component, but I don't know. I don't have them. Unfortunately, we don't know which order they are. I guess I could just say, oh, I know it's 0, which is kind of cheating, but oh, that's right. Okay, you know what? Actually, let's do it like this. Let's say that this is erect. Wait, is that erect or yeah? Erect initial prefab bounds. Prefab bounds. Let's just do that. So then we can just say, hey, that should be the same. And then we can iterate through prefab 2 entities, and we should find that. So this is prefab 1, this is prefab 3 bounds. I guess it doesn't matter. Let's change it to something. So those are the bounds. One thing we could make sure is that, I guess that doesn't matter. Yeah. Prefab 3, prefab 2 entities. So that's after the transform. I suppose one thing we could, yeah, I think this is okay. So we're just making sure that the transform is set properly. We can also require that the world contains SID. What is that? It's going to be, so prefab 3 has a collision component, but it does not have a physics. Oh, that's one thing I missed, huh? I guess I should remove that, huh? Yeah. So it should contain a collision component. I need that, right? The SID. Oh, I guess not. Never mind. Okay, glad I looked. So it should contain that, and it should not contain the physics component. So I think that's really it for the test. This is kind of a crummy test. I mean, it gets the job done. It's only testing the delta on the transform component. So let's go ahead and run this. Okay, let's take a look at that. What's going on here? Oh wait, here we go. Transform entity. It's trying to get this transform component and it's failing. Interesting. But we definitely have it, right? Prefab 3 transform, that looks right. Oh wait, prefab 2. Oh, whoops. I don't finalize it. I think I accidentally deleted that. Hey, Maychip. What's up? Okay, so, oh, whoops. Do I have any idea about Perl? Not really, I've never used it. Or maybe I've used it like once, but it was over 10 years ago. I don't think it's that popular of a scripting language. Okay, hey, we failed here. It's saying it doesn't know how to handle that. Or something. Or it just looks like it's failing, period. Let's take a look. Hold up. Let me set this as the default. Start a project. There we go. Okay, so 5511. So that is prefab 2. So it seems like it did not change that. Okay, so now my question is why? Let's restart that. Let's break into this. We're looking for this right here, which actually, yeah, hits it immediately. So here's the previous component. Here's the new component. That looks right. Okay. So it does say that they are different. 5511. Yep, that looks good. 8824. Yeah. Okay, so we're trying to calculate the deltas. So let's get to this point here. So now it's trying to figure out if it's the correct prefab type. So it should skip the first 3 and then it should. Oh, dang. Ha 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 ha. That's my problem. Okay, that's my bad. That's my bad. I am saying that it's prefab. It's a different prefab. So it's not finding those because I'm creating them with prefab 2 and then I'm saying that we're changing prefab 3. But it's using the prefab 3 IDs. So what I need to do probably is like after this point, maybe we then say prefab 2 components is equal to prefab 3. Oops, prefab 3 components. Same with the bits. Oh wait, that doesn't quite work. I guess we could do previous components. Auto previous components. Okay, so that will now work. And we just have to say previous. Hey, Mexi, what's up? How's it going? And also, Yuri's Twitch, welcome. Explain memory delta? Sure, I can do that. Give me just one moment. I'm still suffering from allergies here. Okay, so the whole idea here is that we're trying to calculate the delta between the previous prefab and the new prefab, and this is for hot reloading prefabs. Sorry, the previous component and the new component for prefab. So we have like this entity, and let's say that we're changing the physics mass. We want to be able to figure out like, oh hey, the mass has changed. Let's apply that change to the components that are associated with entities that were initiated or initialized from the prefab that has changed. It's kind of complex, but yeah. So the memory delta that we have going on here is, here we go, memory delta. That contains a position, a length, and I think that's it actually, a position and a length. And so, since we want this code to work for all of the different component types, we don't look at the individual like member attributes or variables for the components. We're just looking at the data itself. So we're like, hey, has this exact byte, or yeah, we're looking at them as bytes. Has this exact byte changed? If so, then let's update it. And so the memory delta is just tracking where at, so the position where at in the component it has changed, and it's like run how many bytes changed within that, and then we copy it over. So first, what we do right here, this code, is it's running through and calculating all of the memory deltas for the previous component to the new component. And then at the end, we can see our deltas. So we can see we have exactly 4 deltas here. Since this is used for everything, I made it so it's just static, this array. So as long as we never try to do multi-threading with this, then that's fine. I know there's one thing you can actually do where, I forget what it is exactly, but if we did ever want to make this multi-threaded, there's something, there's like a keyword you can say that makes it so that every single thread will have its own static variable like initialized. So they're all individually taking care of their own like deltas. But right now we don't need that. So we've calculated the deltas. We can see them here. You can see its position is 2, length is 2. And so it's just the first. It seems like, I think it's because the numbers are so small that it's like 0, 0, 0, 5, 0, 0, 0, 12, or a whatever. And so because it's a UN 32, actually it's a float. But yeah, anyways, I think it's a float. So we should skip them. Oh wait, it's still saying prefab 3. Oh wait. I think I forgot. Yeah, this now needs to say it's prefab 2. Okay. Continue. Here we are. We got our deltas figured out. Perfect. Prefab ID is 2. So now we can see it's 2. They match. So now we are wanting to apply the delta. So we get the delta, and we do a mem copy of the new data over to the existing component for that length. So we apply it. So now our bounds looks correct. Let's see if it passes everything. It does. Cool. So that works. Does that all make sense, what we're doing here? Hopefully. The one last thing I would kind of at least like to think about for a moment is there a way that we could make it so that this is testing all of the components easily? I don't know. I don't think the best thing I can think of is creating some prefab that has all of the existing components and then scrambling the data on those components and applying that change and making sure that that scrambled version is applied. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if that actually makes sense though. I think I won't do that for now. So I think we're done here. Let's go ahead and add this in. What is this? Do we want this? Unit test for world apply. What do I like? Okay. So we are now more or less done with our prefabs. Yay, prefabs. So that's awesome. Got that figured out. We have hot reloading working, which is like the main thing that we were going for prefabs, but there's still a whole other side of our scripting that we want to add in support for, which we still need hot reloading. And that's the user interface, and I would argue that's even more important because whenever you're developing the user interface, usually you want to be making very small tweaks. You're like, let's move this over here, let's move this over here, and it's visual. At least the way I have developed the UI for Korea and other games, it's very visual. So lots of iteration and being able to see it reload as you're changing the file is just it's priceless. So we want to add in support for that. So it's for editor related things like Unity game objects serializing or something like that, the memory delta. So it's pretty much where like all of this hot reloading and everything is where and actually I was showing it off, and I suppose I can do that again. I think we had, right, I had that here the other day. Right now I don't support hot reloading with the templates, but it's something to consider in the future. So we can do this. Oh, unfortunately, I think I scrapped all of that. Huh. Circle, yeah. Let me do this rectangle shape. I think we just take that rectangle, right? Area color, that should be fine. Oh, it doesn't need that. I think that's it. I'll show you how it works. So our prefabs are things like items. Oh, I forgot. I need to go to game. And we need to say that we want to be creating a door prefab. So prefabs are any entities. It's kind of like, it's a prefab for Unity, more or less, where you have the base, like representation of some objects, and then you can instantiate new entities from that prefab. So what am I doing wrong? Why is this not showing up? I think I ran into this the other day. What was it that I was doing wrong here? Our door is not being displayed. What did I do wrong? I think it's with I think it's because I don't have a texture rect set, right? how do we get the bounds again? Or maybe we don't. Okay, maybe that was the problem. Sorry. I think I need to set this. I think I forgot to do that. I need to come up with a clean way to do this. I think that the game or the texture rec's not being set because the animation. Yeah. Looks like it's still not setting the bounds right. Huh? Oh, I got rid of that too? Oh, no wonder why. That's not working. Yeah, I had like disabled a bunch of this stuff. Get world. And I had tested it and then I undid all those changes. Sorry. I forgot how many changes I had actually made. There we go. No way, that's only half. Oh, I must have changed it, huh? Yes. So we can now see that I can change this to be like -6, -6, 30, 30, and it automatically updates the size. So that's pretty cool. And so then I can like undo a bunch and it changes it. So this is actually, you know, figuring out, oh, hey, our collision bounds have changed. Let's go through all the entities created from this prefab and apply this collision bounds change to them. And it also applies it to any of the newly created ones. And so that's what this hot reloading is doing. And the memory delta is figuring out what data has actually changed within that component. Yeah. There's a VOD. I don't know. I guess I haven't actually uploaded it yet to YouTube, but there's a VOD that will be available soon that you could always check out on my YouTube channel. So we want to add in something like that for the UI scripting, but first we need to figure out what is the UI scripting. What is that going to look like? So we have some examples from the Korea code. That we can kind of look at and think like what was good, what was bad, what do we actually want. So first off, there aren't really classes in Lua, so we can't just like make a class, and I think that's okay. I mean, we can kind of, but I don't know if we really need or want to do that. I don't think we want that. But anyways, so we have this idea of like we want to create some dialogue or a piece of the UI and have it run. And we would like to have it initialize the UI, set up how it all should look, and then also have some callback functions attached to our elements that we can call. So something like this. So this would be the first time that we're doing any actual Lua functions. So we need to look at that. I think that's really all we need. So we need like a bunch of functions that handle the like interactions that the player can have with the UI. And then also it can handle some other things as well. And so that's going to be maybe one of the trickier parts. We need the UI to change not only whenever the player is interacting with it, but also like, let's say, a really basic example is that you have like a power meter that shows how much power you have left. It's like your health. As that value changes on your, power component, that needs to be updated in the UI. So preferably we would have like some event that's triggered that says, hey, your power has changed, update it. Maybe sometimes we want to be polling it instead of setting up a callback. But I think that oftentimes we'll want callbacks because it's going to be happening infrequently. So we would have. So let's actually kind of like start playing around with this. Like, what's our scripting support? So what needs to be exposed? User interface. So what exactly? Here, turn into heading. Turn into a bullet list. What needs to happen here? Thought I kind of did this. I guess not. Initialize dialog layout or elements. Hey, fake Pyre. What's up? Good to see ya. How's it going? Yeah, you could make or get a metatable based class system. Yeah, I don't know if we need that. I mean, we kind of already will have that from our system here. Like we have, so we haven't exposed any of this yet, but whoops, we have our user interface and we have a dialog class here. What was it called? Dialog. Okay, I don't know why I did not see that. Took me a moment. We have this dialog set up already, so maybe we could just use that as our class. If we look at the Python code, we can see we just derive from that class. So it's like, do we really need anything more than that? I don't know. Like perhaps we could just say, hey, here's our dialog is I think it would be something like dialog new. And then we could do whatever we want with it here. The main useful thing is that, and I don't know if we support this. we probably do. I think we could. Is overwriting that stuff? So we could, and yeah, I would need to look at that. Make sure that works or makes sense. I'll look at that in a moment. Give me a sec. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how we will handle overloading various functions in here. I know I did that though. I don't remember exactly which ones. Let's look at the Korea code dialog. I know I did overload some of these. Handle up, handle down. Yeah, I think those for the, that's right, for the game controllers stuff. I did like gamepad support, controller support, whatever you want to call it. That was something. Oh, there's also a handle event. That's right. That's something else that I supported. That's a good question, is like, how does that get handled? Like if I call handle event on the dialog, would it ever call the Lua code? You know, maybe I could do something like handle event is equal to function handle, or wait, it would just be function, right? And then it would have the params. Oops. I don't know if that would actually work properly. It might. So what else, what do we need to do here? Use it. Initialize the dialog elements. Set up callbacks for elements. For element interactions. And then also we need to, yeah, we do need to handle events, support overloading functions such as handle events and controller support. I think those are the three main things that we need to do for this. And then there's also hot reloading. Oh, you know what? Another thing is this might not be so bad. Is what was that called again? The style sheet. That's right. I think those are the main things that we need to be trying to do here. Okay, so this. Samantha is asking about this stuff. So this is if you are Let's go to our ECS. If we have a query, now I do some queries in here, like this right here. Where's the query? Oh wait. One of these, here we go, query. I don't even know what that is. Test comp. This says it's a rect. Did you change the like query system, Summit? I don't know what's going on here, but it seems like something has fundamentally changed for you. I mean, I don't know why we would, you know. I don't know. I think at this point it's saying that it's trying to do binding on the transform component itself. I wrote my own query system. I see. Yeah. So in this case, for me, it is getting the proper thing. Although I think it's a little confused as to what exactly that is. It's just that this is complicated. What if I do auto? I guess that's the same thing, huh? It figures it out, the decal type. Yeah. I guess that's pretty much the same thing. Yeah, I don't know, like, it's complicated stuff, so I don't know exactly what's wrong with that saying the code. I mean, that's true for even, like, simpler code. Hard to know what's wrong whenever you only see a small part of it. Yeah, so, like, that still works for me. Yeah. So that's working for me. So there's something wrong with your query system. I don't know what. We can take a look. Query iterator. Return type. Return type is a tuple of a pointer and the args. Some iterator components. The components, that's an ordered set. Registered entity. Hey Loco, how's it going? Haven't seen you for a while. Hope things are going well. I'm doing good. Doing good. To an ordered set. So I don't, what is this components? So I don't know what this T unordered set is exactly, but oh, I see. So it's composed of the registered entity. Registered entity is components. Never mind, I see. So those are the components. And so that's a tuple of T star arg star. Okay. And so don't know how it's deducing a component star ref. One sec, guys. One sec, guys. I'll be right back. Okay. Um. I'm thinking here. Let's look at structured bindings. Yeah, so I think structured bindings always does a reference. That's your problem. So if you do a structured binding, Summit, so if we look at this, this is my understanding at least, is that we have a return type of tuple t star. So this is a pointer. These are pointers. So we have pointers of the components. And then so if we were to do something like, you know, have the return type, or just do like for auto iter, or what's the best way to do this? Components. So this would be tuples for components in our, you know, make-believe query of components. These would be pointers, and I think I forget. I think you need a get typically. Right? Isn't it something like this? I might be wrong. How do you get the... No, that's wrong. I forget how you get stuff out of the tuple. But anyways, you can get it, and that would be returning the type t pointer or whatever. So you could have, you know, the component, and I forget, how do you actually get a value out of a tuple? Tie. Just make tuple. Oh, it is like that. Haha. I was right. Okay. I haven't really used this before, but yeah. So this would get the pointer out from it. Your problem is that whenever you do a structured binding, like this, component 1, component 2, in our query, that is going to now make it, component 1 is actually a component star ref because it's making a reference to that thing. Get returns a reference as well. Maybe that's what you need the remove reference t. When use e to denote the type of the expression e. In other words, e is the equivalent of... Oh, wait, what? Auto ref. I'd read that. I don't know exactly, sorry. I'm still very new to this stuff. Yeah. But I think that might be part of your problem. I'm, like, I get away with it because I'm using references already, so it doesn't bother me. But yeah, I take a look. So I'm not more help. I'm still pretty new to this. If anyone else knows more about structured bindings or some methods problem, then you're welcome to lend a hand. Okay, so let's actually get back to our UI stuff now. So these are the things that we're wanting to do with it. I think the biggest question is this overloading functions. I'm not sure how we might just have to change it to references. I feel like you shouldn't have to. Also, like, what's the problem with having it be a reference? Because you're just, I'm presuming that you're iterating over it. And so, you know, while you're iterating over it, it's still valid. It should still work, right? Okay, let's play around with this. How can we get this to look good? Register. I kind of like to be able to just execute the script and it sets everything up for us. And so the idea would be that at the start of the game, we would do something along the lines of iterate through the UI directory for each I don't know, .ui file. We execute or we run it as a script. Run each UI file as a Lua script. Initializes the dialog, and I mean, we could always have it return the dialog. Maybe that would be best. Wonder if we ever want to be able to create multiples of a single dialog. I'm not sure. Hey, Cooler, what's up? Yeah, initializes the dialog and file sheet. I think that's it. When for hot reloading, we simply have to rerun the .ui script. I think that's what I would like to do. One thing that could be nice is if it could store the state. I'm not sure how feasible that is. I don't really know how necessary that is. If we ever wanted to store the state, I suppose that could work. We could always like pass the script like a state object, which is just a table, and then we could pull out whatever information we want from it. And then we could even have a function on it, which is like get the state. Make a note of that. Could support preserving state with a get state set state think that works. If we wanted to do that, we could maybe even like say have it be optional somehow. Maybe the dialogue itself has those members that we could just set. So this is really just a soul table. I would prefer to have it go to the next line. Oh well. Whatever, that will do. Let's keep kind of sketching around with this. So what did I like about the UI that we had for Korea, and what did I dislike about it? Setup. One thing I kind of dislike about it is that the logic and the state are somewhat overlapping, which kind of sucks. Like all the data, I guess it's like, you know, if you think of like a MVC, I think is what it is, model view control. Our dialogue is really kind of all of those. And having a distinction between those might be useful. So it's definitely the model, right? I guess the model is typically going to be our component. Sometimes it's our UI, like it will have some state. But I suppose oftentimes it's more of the component, the backend. Definitely the view. I mean, the view is like setting it up, right? So it'd be kind of nice to be able to create a clear distinction between the view and the controller. So the controller would be things like handle event or any of these other interactions like, oh, the player clicked on this button, now we need to do something. And it also could be things like handling data changes, the model change. thinking about this. Be good to, I don't know, do we really need this setup? I guess we use that in our dialogue, right? Like we do have we have setup attributes. We have setup attributes. I thought somewhere, I don't know where it's at. Void setup. What would call this though? The setup function. View setup. Let's set up. Here we go. Our UI would call setup. So do setup attributes, update style, and then setup. And setup is where we actually define everything. So first what we need to do is set up the attributes and then update the styling for it. Right. So that is important. Which means that we kind of need to, like, the first thing we need to do is really we kind of would like to do the styling. One thing that might be interesting is to be able to, like, so what's our current style sheet looking like? It's an any map. So I guess we will want to change that from an any map to be a sole table. Yeah. I think so. So what might be kind of nice to do is whenever we create a new dialogue, UI dialogue, we set the style sheet as the base or the core, and then we might want to just change this because, like, I found out for Korea's development is that I had one core, and then every dialogue might want to, like, change the UI a little bit. I never had, like, multiple cores, so that was kind of, like, silly. So we have, like, one base style sheet, which is like, hey, these are all the defaults. This is how we typically want our UI to look. And then, oh, hey, this needs a little bit more special stuff. Like, you know, maybe we want all of the labels to be a slightly different font size or a different font or whatever. Typically not, but sometimes. And so what could be nice is that we would have a style sheet, and then perhaps we could apply. We have a style sheet, so we can merge. Know what this does? Styles, merge. Yeah, we merge whenever we call add. So what if we just had like a style sheet.merge and we supported styles is just a map, so we could just do this, right? I mean, we don't have to call merge, we could just say like update or whatever. And so this would be our style sheet already. So then we could set it up, do whatever we want with it, which could look something like, if we scroll down here, where we would, I think this would still be valid. We could say stuff like this. Set the font size or whatever. And then that would be able to merge that into the core UI. So like, we need some script to be able to run that initializes the style sheet. Another possibility is that I make the style sheet be a separate script. That could be worthwhile doing as well. So instead of doing this, I guess I could keep more of the system I currently have. And then what we would do is we would run through all of our, kind of like what we're doing here, or planning to do with our .ui files. We would have a like .uis or style file. I don't know what we want to call it, but some file that would contain our style sheets, and we would just execute all of those, load them up. We could even watch for those, so if we ever change a style file, then it would automatically load, and perhaps it could like know which dialogue it's associated with. Hey Jeremy, what's going on? Yeah. So then it would pretty much do this inside of those files. One thing I like about that is then it kind of separates the style sheet from the UI. That would be good. Yeah. I think I like that. Hey guys, I need to go AFK for a few minutes, probably like 5 to 10 minutes, probably closer to 10. Sorry for the extended AFK, but I do want to try to get some more work in today, so I'll try to be back as soon as possible. Be back soon. Okay, I'm back. So we're looking at this dialogue style sheet stuff. I think I do like the idea of having the style sheet be completely defined. Outside of this, probably something more like that. Maybe we could even just return it. Just do this. And so then we could just read that table out. do whatever we want with it. And then we have our UI file. So we would first like load up the style sheet. Hey, thanks, Cooler. And then we could run our dialogue afterwards. I like that. That sounds good. I wonder if there's a good way to be able to, like, how would I specify the main style file? It's the one thing I'm thinking about. Maybe we could just say like core or main style. Base style, I don't know, something like that. Probably any of those would work. And then we want to be able to have this dialogue, new dialogue.handle event. Set up callbacks, initialize. So just looking at how could we do that nicely. That would mean that we would just set it right here, right? So that would probably happen later. Here's where we would want to set things up. So we would have stuff like dialogue.associate. This section is equal to that. Associate. I think it would be section.new. Stuff like that. I don't think we can do names, which kind of sucks. Named arguments. We can pass in if we really wanted to. Yeah, that really sucks that we can't do named arguments. Forget, I changed this. That's right. I think I made it so that if it takes 2, then that is the horizontal and vertical. If it takes 4, then it's like top, left, bottom, right, or something. So we can do something like this, and then we could say, oh, and now we want this section. Associate element group dot new, and that takes, you know, group name and pixel vector dot new to 16.0, etc. Group dot add item slot dot new slot dot name. You know, we could say for slot. Unfortunately, we can't do it exactly like this. Because Lua's lame. I forget how they do for loops in Lua. Anyways, so we would do something along these lines. I think that would work. We could just go straight down. So it'd be kind of like taking all of these different functions and then putting them into here. We have, what it did is we would have a group of sections and then we would call initialize with those sections. Is that what we would want to do for this? Maybe. If we did, then what would we want to do? It'd be kind of nice to not have to do that. Or to have it be done automatically. Like, what if we had, instead of dialog.associate section.new, we had an add section. And then that would mean that it would automatically add it. And we could even have it so that whenever this ends, it essentially calls the initialize. So it goes through everything and then it calls the initialize. So it'd be something like the pseudocode would be, you know, I guess we have it up here. Iterate through the UI directory, run each UI file as a Lua script. Maybe we would first say run each for each .ui file, execute corresponding style file. Then run the UI file as a Lua script. Initialize, yeah, and so then it returns the dialog. It returns, which returns the dialog. What is this? Oh, I think we need a what do we do here? We add a view. It says set of attributes, update style, setup. That's right. We need to know the style sheet when we're adding everything. Thinking how we can do that. So the tricky thing about this is that means that maybe what we need to do is actually pass in the dialogue that's already created. The problem is that I don't know how exactly we know that it's a dialogue that we want, because sometimes we might want a view or a HUD. But we kind of need to do something like that where we... Yeah, that's the tricky part, is that we need to set up the first. Here, I'll sketch it out here. So before we run so for each style file, we need to load the styling, and then we need to set up the style sheet for the dialog. Which means we need a dialog. And then we need to apply the style. I guess that's kind of the same thing, really, is this setup attributes and then update style. Kind of. Update styling for dialog. Run it. And then lastly, we need to, where's this setup? Thought there was something else. Oh yeah, we need to call, at this point, we need to call initialize the sections. So we need to do all of that. And in order to do that, it means that we kind of need to be passing or initializing the dialog beforehand. I suppose we could. Another possible way to do this is pass in the style sheet. And so then we could have something like dialog.new with our style sheet that gets passed in. That might work. That would give us the most flexibility. I think so. I think that might be the best way to do it. So then what that would mean, because that would take care of these two things right here. Set up the style sheet and update the styling for the dialog. That could all happen within the constructor, I believe. And then we could also automatically do this as well. Whenever the script finishes executing, we can just call initialize, right? I think we always want to do that, like even in the HUD. Wait. Oh, I guess this doesn't have initialize. Okay, never mind. Yeah, it is kind of different. Maybe we'll just figure it out whenever we want to get to that point. I don't think it's going to change dramatically. We could always check if it's a dialog, then we need to initialize it. I mean, if we're not calling add sections, then I guess, yeah, we could always add in like a initialize function to view if we really wanted to. I think that would work. I think this will work. I think that this will work. So how about, so we're just trying to figure out all of the different parts for this UI scripting. So how are we going to do this? So we kind of figured out how we want to do this. I think I know how we want to do that. I suppose we need to look at that. So these two things, which is Lua functions. How are we using the Lua functions? How do we need them to really work? We know how this customizing the style sheet's going to work now. Hot reloading, it really can just redo this. I think that's okay. And if we want to support, we can support watching UI files as well as style files. And then one thing we could do is have a mapping of file name to dialogues. So like main.style would basically be used for all of the dialogues. Something like equipment.style and equipment.ui. Those would be only used for equipment.ui, the equipment dialog. And so if one file changes, then we would just reload that UI file. Right? We would basically redo this. Well, this part. If the main changes, then we have to update the core style sheet. Otherwise, we can then. So that's a special case. Otherwise, we rerun the script or the style file, and then we run the UI file, and it gets updated. Now, if we want to, we can do this get state, set state thing. Support overloading functions such as handle events and controllers. Yeah, let's figure out this this stuff here. I think that's the last thing we need to do as far as like figuring out how we want to handle this UI scripting. So we have this, oh wait, that's not it. Event.h. This callback to the function. I think Lua support, or I should say Soul supports functions and vice versa. I think so. Overload function calls with different argument types and counts on a single name. That function. To be explicit about wanting a struct to be interpreted as a function, use set function. Can also use as function call, which will wrap and identify your type as a function. Okay. Okay, so that's not exactly what I was looking for. What I was kind of more looking is like, let's say that we have a function in Lua that's defined. Sol function. And I want to set it as a callback. Functions. Here we go. So function is often easier, takes a variable number of types of arguments, fx, fixed signature, can be used to tie a function down. Okay. So we can do that, so that's pretty cool. So that calls return 1, right? And then this is 1 as well. Call through the operator. G is A plus B. That's 1 plus 2. Uh-huh. Cool. So we could use... So that's pretty cool is that we can use a sol function as a standard function, which actually means that we can store them inside of here, which is really cool. So we can store it inside of the event. One thing I'm not sure about is, can we call that? Can I say, hey, let's listen? That's actually something I would like to play around with. Thinking, how could we mess with that? A V25. Sorry, I do not speak Russian. Welcome, though. I was thinking about... how I want to handle this. Or I want to test it, really. One thing that's kind of sucks about this is that we have the type defined here, or the T, the args. I'm trying to think. How do we actually support that nicely? I'm not sure. Oh, thanks, Dick. Or cooler. I need more coffee. I wonder if this is actually the best way to do it, considering this. I wonder if it'd almost be better to make a special type of callback. Did I just call you Dig? Yeah, well, I was reading after the name where you said exclamation mark Dig. Yes. You know, I'm sure you've had this happen. I'm sure most people do, where you're reading one thing but you're wanting to say something else, but then you say what you're reading, not what you're thinking. Yeah. Everyone is Dig to me now. ACR, what's up? Okay, so yeah, we need to expose this stuff, but I was trying to think about how I should go about playing around with this. What might be best is I try to just expose that. I guess so. Let's go to element.h, where we should have event UI. Here we go. So this is the event UI at the moment. I don't know if we're going to, I really want to keep it that simple. Oh, and that's defined in forward. What are you coding? Hey, Mega. Welcome. I'm coding projectDIG. There you go. If you have any other questions, you're welcome to ask. Blue expose. Here we are. This is what I was looking for with open. This types header. I was thinking about adding onto this as like maybe we could say using files, and then what was the other one? I think it's forward. It's UI forward. So then I could say for file name and using files, file name, file path. Okay, so that will make it so that we can find that. So I worked on this a few days ago, the script that makes it so that we can go through our directories and be able to like pick apart this stuff. I mean our header files. So if we go to event, I can do something like what we did for vec2. So we can say user type template and we'll do UI event UI. There we go. And then we need to just say Lua func for I believe all of those. I don't know if it's going to get the verdict stuff properly. I probably won't. Yeah, I don't think I have support for that, so we'll have to add that in. I don't think we want any of that stuff, so it'd just be this. It's what we expose. So I can run a script. So if I go to here, oops. Python bin lua expose include seeds types. Oh, whoops, I forgot a comma. Include UI. The capital UI. Seed UI. Oh, whoops. There we go. Key error, event UI. Really? Let's test this out. So typesetter. So this should be file path. Yeah, so let's continue. Oh, whoops. That was a fail. File path. Okay, now we're looking at the forward. For line. So if we go to this file, we're looking at this stuff here. So we need to like skip a lot of lines right now. Line is class element. We still need several more. Element ID. Here we are. I skipped it. No. Well, it should still be able to capture this, right? Next. Result is none, really? Using space. How would that not match? Why do you use command line debugger? I don't know. I'm just used to it. Okay, let's test this out in a regex. Okay. Okay, so it's not being able to find it. Must be something about that part. Because it can find that using. So it's space. That should work. Oh. Really? That technically should be good. I think it's because it's missing the star. I think that's my problem. What debugger would you recommend for Python? Hey, there we go. So that script generates this Lua user type. So we can look at event. Yeah, here we are, event UI. Which is not right. Oh, it's because I don't ever actually... wait, what? Oh, it's because I need to include the forward, that's why. Yeah, okay, sure. Technically, I think I should be doing like include types, include UI forward. I think that should fix it. Oh, that's inside of the UI namespace. Oh, dang. That makes it a little trickier, huh? I guess I have to figure out which namespace it's in. Boo. uh, okay. I guess that's not too bad. Kind of. How should we handle that? Includes. Guess we should add. File path. We should strip off this part, right? Oh, we kind of already do that here. Okay, so that will add the includes, but we still need to worry about the namespace. So that's a little trickier. So how are we using this again? Down here we say template specialization. Template using specialization. Right. I think I need to zip up the templates. Oh wait, you know what I could maybe do now that I think about it? I might be able to get away with doing this. Maybe. I think, maybe. UI event, UI. Key error. I need to strip off that. And that's in 193. Yeah, we would have to strip off. What do we want to do? What's the best way to do that? To strip off all of the namespaces. Are find? Okay, cool. I don't know if I actually need that. Wait, can't we just do, like, if I say Python, so we'll do something like that. UI event UI, our find is 2. Okay, let's say that this is CLS. Is that right? Looks like it. Oh, wait, one more test, which is CLS equals event UI. Okay, this is going to be wrong. Yeah. So we do need to say if it's not equal to -1, then we want to take this plus 2 to strip that off. So how close is that to working? It's close, but now we have this problem where I want to do the same with the name. So maybe what we can do is create this little thing and call strip namespace. We can pass that in. So then up here, I can just have a little function, strip namespace. Oh, oops. Okay, seems good. So then over in here, user type name. So we actually need to change this. Let's say that this is stripped. I'll just call it class. Maybe I'll call it exposed name. Like that. There we go. So now that works. And we should have our headers in here as well. Perfect. Cool. So that looks like it's all working now. So now what I would like to test Oh. Oh, it doesn't know what element is. That is a problem. I wonder if I do want to try to preserve the namespaces. Yeah, like this is not going to work here. I probably am going to need to do something more. Bah. Yeah, so I need to have a Lua user type. I don't think I need to pass in anything there. Lua constructor. So the tricky thing with elements is that I'm going to need to have it be derived from base classes, and that's going to be like an entirely new challenge, of course. I don't know how I want to handle this. I do think I need to expose pretty much everything. And so this would be a Lua var. Read only, I believe. I don't think we want to expose any of that stuff. Yeah, and a lot of these, if not everything, we would want to expose, update style. I don't know. I would like to try to limit what we are exposing if possible. Like, we don't need to expose the draw functions. We would definitely want to expose the like set positions. Yeah. Maybe we can try to limit what we expose. Missing used user type, event UI. Are we exposing this element now? Element, we are trying to. But the problem is that, again, maybe the easiest way for me to solve this would be to just say using namespace UI. Right, wouldn't that fix this? Wait, I forgot how to even do that. How do you expose a namespace? I never do it, so I don't even know how. Maybe it's like include namespace. It's not really include. What do I... It's funny, I never do this. Using namespace std. Yeah, okay, that was right. I don't know why it's not being able to figure out the UI namespace. Oh, that's why. I need to put it in here. Oops. Okay, maybe that is the easiest way to go about doing this, because then this will just work and I don't have to really worry about namespaces. Typically, I don't like doing that, but it greatly simplifies things, because then I don't even have to worry about like this, right? How does it know which namespaces to include? I'm not entirely sure. Maybe we could just have using namespaces. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Whoops. Way to go about doing it. It is manual. Maybe I want to make it so it's not doing manual. Yeah, so we can consider doing it this way, in which case we could remove that whole namespace thing. But then what we would do is right before we start adding in the namespaces here, I think we could get rid of one of those new lines and then say for namespace and using namespaces output.write using namespace oh, and want to include a new line, and then I think we'll do one more output.write new line. Missing used user type. Let me remove this strip namespace. Oh, whoops. Thought I got rid of it all. Oh no. There we go. So now it is properly doing that. I think I will actually include another, go back to here and see. Another new line, so then it has the extra space right there, so we can see all of our usings. So that works. I don't know if I want to keep it like this. Maybe we'll do something else in the future. I don't really know if we care. I imagine that it's going to have some issues still. Yeah, does it know what this element ID is? Right? No matching overloaded function found. Oh. Really? Oh, interesting. It did get messed up. It, for some reason, is adding in 2 const refs here. Should only be doing 1. Const ref element ID. I don't really know if we care. That's my philosophy towards everything in life. That's kind of sad. Yeah, it was, yeah. For coding, you don't really want to waste time doing something whenever you're uncertain you actually need it or care about it. So, yeah. Makes sense. Okay, so what's going on with this function here? It's a constructor. Let's say if element in line, then we'll break. Line, continue, line. Okay, so this should be what's up. So we'll take this. So param is const element ID. Oh wait, that's the wrong one. Here's our line. Yeah. So it says line.split. So what does this end up returning? Okay, so it's 2 elements, that's right. Step. Already match. So the result.group 1. For param. Okay, so parameters now set to that, that's right. Result.group 1. That's right. Okay, so that looks right. I want to see what's in here. That looks right. So why is it Lua expose? Oh wait. User types. Is it getting that extra one? Is it including this previous one? It might be doing that. That's my current guess. Let's look at the constructors. Signatures, append. Wait, what? Oh, for signature and signatures. I see. So it must be something is up with this params. Yeah, I think what we'll do is we'll just say, hey, let's get if the name is equal to element, then we'll break. Parameters. Okay. Signatures. $129. Okay. What's params? I think it's because I need to put that right there. Aha, there we go. Yep. It's because I wasn't clearing the parameters after every single constructor. Let's see if I get no, I'll go blind. Quick, close your eyes. If somebody else is gonna be working for you in the future, he's gonna have a heart attack seeing that Python code. Yeah. Maybe we'll clean it up at some point. It's definitely hacky. I will admit that. Okay, so now we have that. Right. Hopefully it compiles. No. Really? I thought that would work. I am including element dot UI slash element.h, yeah. How is it not being able to find that? Okay, let's simplify. Not being able to find this one at all? Really? But it's right there. Element.h. I know this worked before. Right? Maybe I haven't gotten that working. Oh, I've done this one. Yeah, rect. Oh, it's so close. Oh, that's my problem. Yeah. Funny. That this was wrong, but actually complaining about something else in here. I'm pretty sure. Maybe. Actually, maybe not. Oh yeah, it's this set position. Set position is overloaded. So if I got rid of that, it should work. Yeah. There's overloaded functions. I don't know what I want to do with that. That was the issue. I hate how I'm going to have to expose each event template as a different type. But that does compile. So I'm not positive, but I think that this will work. I mean, even if it doesn't work, we can always like add in an overload that would work. So we can have something like, I don't know if this handle event or like how that would work, but if we want to do, let's say going back over here, so we're gonna have like all these different on hide, on show. So we could have the like dialogue on show, listen, function, and it basically is like a lambda here, right? And it takes the element exactly. So then we can do something with it. I think that's going to need to change because with only access to the element, I'm not really sure what all we can do. A good question is, can we do solo binding function binding? In Lua, can we bind variables nicely? Um, I see. Okay, so we could do something like that. Soul might have that. Find variable to function. Well, I don't know if I necessarily want that, but it might be good to be able to have the world and the dialogue or the view, whatever, that we are using, so that way we can do, yeah, I think there's like a number of things in here that we're going to want to be able to do, and I'm not sure of the best way for us to handle that, such as, you know, oftentimes we want to be able to display something, like we use self.player. So if we look down below, render portrait on activate slot, here we go. So here's an example. You're trying to equip something, we need to make sure that the player can actually equip it, which means we need to get access to the player or know who the player is or something. Like maybe we could just have the entity ID, the entity be the player. And so we could look up the player that way. But that means that we need some way to get access to it. Where am I at? Oh yeah, here we are. It's over here. Lost it. So I don't know where the player is coming from, like where we are actually tracking the player. Yeah. It'd be kind of nice to not have to worry about world. One thing that might be interesting to do is have like this concept of multiple worlds, and then I can have like a game get world, and we could pass in the world index, and that returns us a world reference. And so then we would be able to say, like, we could just have a world index, and we could even have this concept of, like, the current world for the player. I don't know. If that's a little tricky, is like, how does it know which world the player is in? But we could then pass, instead of passing around the world, we could pass around world index, or provide that, or be able to get access to it somehow, and then we could have this game get world or whatever. Maybe. It still doesn't really solve all of this. I don't know how we want to handle the player stuff. I'm probably wanting to track somehow the player information. which would have the entity ID. We would need to have some more details though, right? Like maybe which world the player's in. So if we ever like added in this concept of multiple worlds, like, you know, each map is its own world, then you would be able to like just move to a different, I mean, we would, if we wanted to move the player, we would just say, hey, we want to take this entity from the world they're currently in and then add them to this other world and update the world index. That's all useful just because like I don't really have any concept of like a player at the moment, so that's kind of making this a little trickier. If we did that, then we wouldn't need the world here. We could just have the player. And then if we had the play, we could then say like player world index or whatever, or just world. Maybe it could even be something like this, world get. I don't know if I like that, but that could maybe work. So we could just say world equals. Yeah, I don't know. I think I prefer world ID over world, just so that way it's clear that it's a world ID. So then if we needed to manipulate the state of the world, we could do that. Maybe. And then sometimes we need to get access to the entire dialogue, I believe. Right, like anywhere that we use self. Well, right now self is... I think it's only being used to get access to the player, huh? There are times though that we need to be able to get, oh whoops, that's always going to be self on unequip. So sometimes we want to call other functions, yeah. Change the, like, so that will actually end up changing a bunch of stuff. Like here we are changing the extra stats. So those are, that's changing what the UI looks like. So we're getting access to the extra stats, which if we look up, is set up right here, and that is a UI element. So sometimes we need to get access to the state of the UI itself, of the view. So this is the table. I mean, that's really all it is the table. So we could pass in, yeah, the dialogue or a table, whatever, and then we could get access to anything that we had stored in it. Like up here, we could say, oh, the dialogue. Items, or I don't know, slots. I don't know if there's a good way to go about doing that. Basically slots. I mean, we would have to do it like this, right? I don't know. I would have to, what's the Lua table? What functions do they have? How do you add an entry? I don't think you really do, I think we would, yeah, I don't think that's quite right. What we'd have to do is, well, there must be a way to add a value to, or like append, insert. Okay, there we go. So it'd be table, insert, dialog slots. So that. Goodbye, joy. What? Goodbye. Take care. That's kind of nasty. Yeah. So that's maybe the better way to do it. So then down here we would be able to, if we wanted to do something with these, we could say, you know, for, man, I really don't know how to use Lua. Basically before slot in dialog slots. I know I'm doing that wrong. For I1, do. There's a better way to go about doing that. I don't really use tables much. I pairs, that's what I was looking for. Yeah, that's what we would want. It's like the index slot in I pairs for the slots. Do that. Oh, whoops, that's the wrong line. Maybe. Yeah. So. That's right, we don't use, I think it would be like that. I'm so used to using brackets for everything. Would that be right? I think you use then. Isn't it then after functions? Index do dialog element. We definitely want the element player dialog. I wonder if there's a better way to go about doing that. Like maybe we could store the player on the dialogue, like who has focus on it or something. So then we could say dialogue.player or whatever. Can you do, wait, actually that's a good question. Okay, one thing I'm curious about is access by key. So if we do tfoo, can we do something like t.kfoo? Okay, yeah, it is that. Okay, cool. That's so nice. I like that. That is something that is well done there. So we can just say dialog.slots instead. That's much better. Thank you. You did something well. And Lou is not all bad. That is definitely a huge plus, I would say. In Python, they don't have that feature, and so I had to add something in, what's called an attr_dict, which is an attribute dictionary. It's really simple, so it's not that big of a deal, but it's still like they should just add in basic support for that, which is that you can, and this is like some weird way how to do it, is basically this is kind of cheating, but basically you say that, hey, the dictionary is the self, so essentially like you can access the dictionary values as a member variable or an attribute, which allows you to do what we are doing here, the dot slots instead of bracket quote slots. So something like this will work. I am kind of thinking maybe we could put the player in the dialogue. One thing I'd like to kind of at least have the option to support in the future is being able to have multiple, like, local co-op, essentially. Yeah. The multiple players playing from the same device or same instance of the game. And so I want to be careful about how I'm using players and never like assume that there's this one player. You know, maybe like I don't know how it would work or what, but I want to try to be careful about how I set that stuff up. Maybe it doesn't make sense. But so like in this case, maybe a player is the person who's like using the dialogue, maybe. I really don't know how that would work. Something to think about. Local co-op is kind of weird. Typically, I think most games, whenever you have local co-op, it doesn't really have any UI. So you think of like fighting games, or I guess there are some games like you know, some first-person shooters that would have local co-op, and they just have their own instances of the dialogue, right? I mean, that's for split screen. I guess that's true. Is whenever you do split screen, then you could just have it so like each player has their own instance of dialogues, which I guess is an option. I don't know. It might be the case that split screen would be the only thing that would make sense for this game if we wanted to have local co-op. Yeah, it's not a big deal for me. Local co-op is hard and it's not really expected in these types of games, but it's something basically that I would like to try to at least have it be somewhat of an option in the future. Okay, so I think I understand how we can do this. How do we want to handle this? So this is callbacks, which is different from overloading our functions. I wonder if we can do that with Lua. I mean with Soul. Override function. Is that possible? I don't know how that would even work. Getting a function from Lua. I should read about that. I think pretty much what it comes down to is that I would need a callback, kind of like this handle event, where I have an on handle event function. So if we go to like our dialog, handle event, so in here, there would be, so like we call the handle event stuff. I don't know exactly where. Maybe we would want it to be at the very top or something. Has handle. Yeah, maybe we would just say if on handle event listen. I forget. I don't think we can actually. That's one thing that's tricky about this. Not listen. Invoke. Mouse position event. Maybe it would just be like that. If it's true, then return true, right? So the tricky thing about that is that events cannot actually return anything. So I don't know how we would handle that exactly in that case, but that's one way we could do it. I think that's possibly the only way we can do that, is have a callback set up, or like a function that we can assign. We could always, instead of having it be a function, have it be a callback, have it be a function. Instead of invoke, we just call it directly. That was actually better. Then we can do that. We can say like, handle event callback, or I don't know, whatever. Something like that. And so we can set that. We could even say if it's set, if it's not equal to null. And so then this would be like a standard pointer. or sorry, a standard function that takes a pixel vector and SDL event. So then we can have that set here, which takes the mouse position and the event, and it can, you know, conditionally return true or false if we want to handle it. That will work. I think that's the way to do it. Most of the time we don't need to do those callbacks, so this is okay. Like if we look at it, dialog. So we have like update, setup, update, handle event, show, but we technically have it on show. So we could still like listen to that. Handle up, handle down. So these are the ones that we would need to handle. That those are for the controller support. So yeah, get rid of this whole idea of like overloading these variable, or overriding the functions in the scripting language, and instead we would have callbacks. I don't know how, like, we don't have callbacks set up for these. Maybe we would need to add that in. Here it does that. I think that makes sense. Okay, so we have, I believe, everything sketched out. Now, initialize dialog elements. We figured out how we want to do that, which is just doing something like this, and then adding the sections, and then being able to, you know, just call like associate, adding that stuff. So that will happen in the UI scripts. Set up callbacks for the element interactions. That's just like what I was showing here for like dialog on show. And any of those other, if we have, let's say, like some item slot. So let's say that we have this here, this slot. We might say item slot is equal to that. And then maybe we want to say that the item slot. So this is one thing I don't like, is that, well, I don't think I like it. How do I want there to be a function here. But I also don't really like inlining it right there, because that's going to make the code kind of hard to read, I think. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. But let's say that you on activate. So you click on this item slot. At that point, and sometimes we want to be able to call functions. At that point, we would like to be able to pass in a function like, you know, handle activate item slot. And so that is a callback on activate.listen. So that's a callback set somewhere. I don't know where, but I think we would have to define it above it, which kind of sucks. I don't like that. Hmm. I'm not sure how I want to handle that. One thing I was thinking of is if we put this inside of a function, then it would be okay. If we had a def setup dialog or whatever, or function setup dialog, then whatever. Make it a little bit more Lua. Then we could have a function down here where it takes like the element or whatever, the dialog and the element. And then at some point we can just call, hey, let's set up the dialog. And it can call it. The thing I don't like about this is then we're having to call this setup here, and that's kind of weird and could easily be like missed or something. I suppose maybe one possibility is that we have a setup that like we run the script and then it will call this setup function for us, maybe. Like we can look for the setup function, possibly. So then I could have all of the actual like view stuff be defined inside of setup. And then inside of here, we could, and maybe if we wanted to, we could call it our model, or sorry, not model, our view. And then pretty much everything below it would be, this is our controllers stuff. Which would be called yeah, and so it could just look for the view, or I don't know what we want to call it. Maybe it would be setup view. Whatever. It doesn't really matter what name it is. So this would be all the controller stuff. This would be the view. So it'd be model view control. The model is the world, essentially. I think typically. Maybe we could have, like right now, the dialogue technically has the the view. The dialogue also has the model because sometimes we want to be storing some data in that. I suppose one thing we could always do is have maybe the model. I don't know. Maybe we could have like a model, which is a table that we could store everything in. Just trying to like keep things split up as much as possible because of like, let's say that we did put the model inside of a table, then hey, guess what? This preserving the state, all it would be is like, and maybe we wouldn't even need these functions. We could just take the model, reload everything, and then set the model equal to whatever the model was beforehand. And so hot reloading would just be a matter of, hey, let's load up all of the, the view and the controller stuff. So the view, if anything changed visually, it would be updated properly. Update the controller in case any of the logic handling the interface changed. And then we would probably do something like take the new model and merge the old model onto that new model. So that way, if we had any new entries or any new data that we're wanting to track within the model, we could. And any data that we wanted to be persisted would then be persisted, so it would be cool. So like that would be really nice to be able to do, is just have that model there that we couldn't pass over. Yeah, maybe we could do that. Kind of like it. Might need to make a little bind thing or something. I'm not sure. Or maybe there'd be a way for us to like, perhaps somehow we could just say like dialog.model. Like we store the model on the dialog. Maybe. I'm not sure. Hey, TBD Gamer, 3 months. Hey, welcome back. Thank you for the support. I hope you're doing well, man. Lots of stuff. Hey, the Gel Mega, what's up? Okay, so I think that we have this just about figured out. Why do you use custom extensions for UI files though? We might not have to. It was so the thing about custom extensions, or just like, we need some way to be able to discover our UI files, right? So we need to be able to see like, hey, this is a UI file, this is a style sheet file, or this is a prefab file, whatever. So there's multiple ways you can go about doing that. One way is to have a list somewhere where you're like, here's all the UI files, here's all the prefab files. Another way to do it would be to put them in directories. Just prefix it with UI or something. Yeah, you could do that too. Or another way is to change the file type, the file name or type. I would say that those are kind of the same. Yeah, I would say, so the advantage of separate directories seems like a good solution. Yeah, it might be. It could very well be the best solution. So it's like either you have to, I guess really what it comes down to is that it needs a unique path that we can identify it on. Some like regular expression thing, having it be in a specific directory. Like all of the style sheets go into a style sheet or style or whatever directory. Or it's prefixed with style underscore or it is a .style file. Any of those can work. They're pretty much all the same. I mean, they have different. I would say that they have different advantages and disadvantages. Or you have some list somewhere, which is not a good solution. I would say, like, having to track that sucks. If you keep the Lua extension, then you can easily require and load these files to the C++ side. I mean, you can do that regardless. I'm already doing that. I have prefab files that, here we go. These not prefab files, I'm treating these as Lua files. So you don't have to have it be, I mean, the extension doesn't matter, really. Like, an extension is used to tell the operating system which file, yeah, it's I guess it's two things. A file extension tells the operating system what programs use that, and then use that file extension, and then the program seeing the file extension will be able to assume different things, like I mean, mostly just the format of the file. But in our game, since we're writing the game, we're the program, so we can tell it to behave however we want. Hey, pink fluffy llama, what's up? Oh, it works even if you use require Lua side? I don't know about that. But I don't know if I'm ever going to be using require. So what I'm doing right now, if we go to our prefab, where is that? Load prefab. So that's the file path, right? So, oh, it's right there. Yeah, here we go. Script file. Here we are. So this file path is the oilslime.prefab file, but we're doing script file. I don't know if we did like require what that would do, but I'm pretty sure we're always going to be running script file. Since we are the program, we can kind of, dictate how files are ran and what we are expecting the file types to be. So we can say, oh yeah, .ui file is a Lua file that is a UI, that contains a UI dialog. Or a .style file is a, Lua file that we're expecting to be in a specific format. And so I would actually argue that having the extension is a good thing, because it means that we're expecting, it's not just a Lua file, it's a Lua file that we are expecting to have a specific format. And isn't that the same as like a binary file? Or like here they have a .atlas file. An atlas file is actually just a text file. If we go look at that, so it's a text file. Why don't they call this a text file? All it is a text file. It's because it's a file that it's in a specific format. It's in this atlas format. And so, I would argue that the UI or the style or the prefabs are all in specific formats that are being expected to do specific things whenever they are ran or loaded. They are Lua files, or they contain Lua code. But yeah, I'm feeling so hyped today. Got myself a deobfuscated copy of Minecraft Beta Server 1.73. So I'm getting a few tweaks done to add some more possible farms to the game. Nice. How old is 173? Release date, July 8th, 2011. Woo, that's old. Playing Minecraft 1.73, the best version. Okay, so people kind of think that 173 is the best. I did not know that. I'll be right back, guys. I need to get some water. Okay, I'm back. Alright, so dang, that's pretty crazy. Worst game save format ever is a text file with 8.5 million lines storing everything. 220 MB. That's crazy. Sounds like they did a good job. I imagine opening that file or like saving times, saving and loading must be horrible. What were they even thinking? Like, how can you make a game and do that? I don't know. That's impressive. Impressive. Not that bad, actually. Huh. Guess if you have like an SSD or something. Okay, so one thing I'm not sure about is PDF support. That's kind of cool. Wow, you can embed stuff with that too. Inline code comments. That's pretty cool too. Nice. They don't compress it. It's why not store it as a binary format? Like, why do you need it to be text? That's the biggest problem. So I need to look up for soul documentation stuff. I want to see how can we with user types. How can I do what's it like inheritance basically? I want inheritance. I think they just call it base classes or something. Bases tells a user type what its bases are. You need this to have derived to base conversions work properly. See inheritance, there we go. Okay. Okay, so this sounds interesting. The entire game logic is stored in text files to allow a lot of modding. Oh wow. That's crazy. I see. Interesting. Interesting. This sounds kind of a pain. What else could you save it in? Binary? That's what Korea does. And Korea supports modding and saving stuff. Yeah, we need to be able so yeah, we need to add more functionality to our Lua expose script because what we now need is like some way for us to maybe I need to create an inheritance tree or something. So that way we can list out all of the parents and include the bases like what it says here. Sole base classes. It says you have to says you must list all base classes, including if there were any the base classes of A and the base classes of those base classes. So like since fortunately most of the time this isn't going to be a big deal, but for our UI it's kind of annoying because we'll have something like our dialog, which is a view, and a view is an element group, and an element group is an element. And so that means that for our dialog, we need to say sole base classes, sole bases, view, element group, element. And so it knows all of those. Did I see automatically? Yes. Is automagical. Please specify all of the base methods on the derived class in the method listing you write. In the future, we hope that this reflection will not... Ah, that sucks too. So basically, my understanding... What do you even get at that point? And my understanding is that then you also need to like include all of these. How about stuff like it says base methods. Dang, that's pretty crazy how much space that takes up. Yeah. So yeah, we need to come up with a solution for this. I think I'm done for the day. I'm tired. I don't want to deal with that stuff now. I kind of need to. I want to go eat lunch and then maybe take a break or something. Been at it for 5 hours. Yeah. I'm gonna call it there. We'll be back tomorrow where we will start working on this. I think we'll start with trying to expose our user interface classes to Lua so that way we can be able to use them in our scripts, and then we'll work on trying to get this stuff set up so we could like load up our UI files and style sheets. One question, did you ever check out Swig? Swig. I don't know if I did. You're talking about this Swig? I'm using Lua. Oh, it looks like it does have it. Yeah, I'm using Soul though. Yeah. So I'm using this for bindings instead. Yeah. It's interesting. They support so many libraries. Wow. Yeah, I didn't really look at it. I will later. But yeah, I'm going to call it for now. Thank you guys for joining. I appreciate it. Like I said, I'll be back tomorrow. We'll be working on this UI stuff. And yeah, I hope you have a good rest of your day. I'll see you guys tomorrow.